This is an introduction to the Education Doctorate curriculum. This is a focus on transformative leadership and an explanation of how the three parts of the curriculum, the three strands, fit together, inform each other, and are intertwined throughout the program, so that as you see these pieces of work emerge, you have an understanding of the purpose, how they're integrated, and where the materials live. The word curriculum comes from the Latin currere, to run the course of. This curriculum is conducted in multiple communities of practice. The one you bring from your life experience, your current workplace, members of the cohort, and your smaller study teams within the cohort, and other practitioners and scholars who study the same areas of research that you intend to study. There's some background about the curriculum. This next graphic shows a portrayal of you at the center, self-study. Who am I as a leader? What do I intend to do and be? What are my goals? The graphic shows overlap with your site study, which is your current place of work, where you're doing your business now as a leader, and your topic exploration, that is the research area you intend to pursue as you move through the program. The theory informing this curriculum comes from self-study, understanding oneself as a leader, and making meaning of your background, your cultural understanding of yourself and the world, your philosophy about leadership, and how you make sense of what it is you do day to day as an individual, as a member of a team, as someone who works in a larger institution, and someone who's part of a community beyond the workplace. The site study allows you to focus specifically on your work team, your unit, or your institution to do change work at that site. The topic exploration, or the more dedicated inquiry of the curriculum, is the third major theme or strand of the curriculum that begins as part of your admissions essay when you discussed your proposed area of study, continues here in orientation, and will be part of every course from here forward. None of these strands winds separately from the others. They are woven together loosely or tightly. This graphic shows the kinds of activities that take place within those strands of self-study, site study, and topic exploration. Here's a few more details about each of the three areas and the kinds of work you'll be producing. Under the self-study, the focus is transforming oneself as a leader. The focus again is on how we conduct our business and changing how we do work or how we see things, rather than looking outward and wondering why other people are doing the things they're doing. So we do introspective activities like journal keeping and critical reflection. We will be doing alignment of our own practice with existing leadership theory and developing our own theory. You'll have many opportunities to articulate your own leadership beliefs and values, first to yourself and then to others. And you'll look at how your existing understanding of oneself as a leader, of yourself as a leader, how that lines up with proposed inquiry work. Inquiry is any kind of study that you take a second look, or you do documentation and take a little more care than you might day to day when you're just doing work on the fly. Here's a little more information about the site study. In the introductory course, we do a site description, who, what, where. In the technology course, you'll be doing an evaluation of current technology, who has access, what is the purpose of the technology at your site. Most people need to focus on a piece of a larger picture. You get to choose the focus or the scope of that study. We'll do a change proposal in the 805 course, Managing Change, and follow that for the next year. policy analysis course allows you to look at a policy that may be inhibiting or potentially allowing work to take place in your organization. Ethical leadership will touch on how you're doing your leadership work at your site. And the final course for change, diagnosing organizational dynamics, which occurs toward the end of year 2, you'll do an evaluation of what you've put in place for the first 1.5 to 2 years of your time in the program. Finally, we get to your topic development, your research area that leads to your dissertation. You can see we start with a topic exploration that occurs really through admission, orientation, and the first several courses. In year 2, you move to a pre-proposal, so it's got the bones of a research proposal as they come into shape and as you flesh out the materials and make that into a real being. You move into a team study opportunity to work with others to develop your work. Finally, you create a proposal based on all the work in the pre-proposal, and then set forth to gather the data and write up your findings, which makes something a dissertation. Here's another explanation of the dissertation development. The product, what course that work takes place in, and who will review that work. Finally, this is a brief introduction to your portfolio, the TLP, or Transformative Leadership Portfolio. The TLP lives as a Google site so that it can be outside the framework of the Blackboard courses. It allows you a lot of flexibility, and you will be parking or placing many of your documents in the Google site, both for your own ability to organize them, so you can develop them and see their interrelationship, and so you can invite relevant others to review your work. Here's a look at the relevant others that are part of the program. This cohort 2 has approximately 60 students in 2 sections, 28 to 30 per section. Here's some examples of the kind of folk that have joined these 2 sections. Individuals will be mixed and matched throughout the program, sometimes role-alike, sometimes heterogeneously grouped, so you can cross-pollinate with people outside of your field, and sometimes randomly grouped into larger reflecting settings like wikis or discussion boards. Here's some graphics that show how those configurations work. This is a picture of a discussion group. You have 8 individuals. The group of 8 is part of their regular reflection and response group, so that it's small enough to respond and get to know people, but large enough to bring in some different perspectives. Here is a role-alike group, 4 individuals representing medical educators. These folks might be grouped for the purpose of doing a case study in their own field, or they might be grouped so they can share common practices and make recommendations to each other that are field specific. Here's a graphic of cohort 2. The first line shows 2 sections, section 2 number 1 and 2 number 2. It shows 4 discussion groups and then many study groups. The study groups will be changed over the life of the program depending on the purpose and the need. You can read a little more about that on the text below. Again, to revisit the concept of a community of practice, Etienne Wenger, as introduced at the beginning of orientation. Wenger summarizes communities of practice, or COPs, as groups of people who share a concern or passion for something they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. Your community of practice can be as small as your work team, your study team in the program, a leadership group that you work with in your community as a volunteer. It can be as large as your entire institution, where community members are pulling in the same direction for the same goals. Wenger uses the terms domain, community, and practice. and his material is embedded as part of the orientation. I'd like to close this presentation with a lovely quote by Bell Hooks, "Teaching community, a pedagogy of hope." Take a look at her work if her theory and philosophy interest you. She is someone whose work has inspired my thinking over time, and I would be pleased to encourage you to take a second look at her writing and thinking. I hope this introduction has been helpful in terms of framing the curriculum, and I look forward to unpacking it with you as we move through the program.